Greetings, soul family and soul friends, and welcome back to another video. Now we're going to get into this week's reading, all right, for June. This week we're having a big event. We are having Mercury in retrograde in Cancer. Now, for those that are unfamiliar with Mercury retrograde is the element of communication, and when it retrogrades, it actually is, how can I say, a lot of times the simplistic way to introduce retrograde is a return, a reverse, and also a retreat. It's a time for those to, of course, finish up on things that they've completed, and it's not the good time to start new things. Okay, there may be difficulties with communication, technology, anything that has to do with communication. Okay, it's a time for it to be how can I say, a time to be reconsidered, all right? Anytime there's a retrograde, especially with Mercury, right? So when you're dealing with Mercury, you're dealing with air elements, and we are in Gemini season, which is the ruling planet of Gemini. Mercury is the ruling planet of Gemini, okay? So let's go ahead and look at what the cards have for us as far as the messages they would like us to focus on, and also to get us in the energy and the focus of a realigning and reconnecting, okay, with this new Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrogrades actually happened for a few weeks, so this Mercury retrograde would end in July, I believe the 11th. All right, so let's see what the cards has in store for us to focus on when it comes to this Mercury retrograde, all right, for Mercury in Cancer. And also, let me also not exclude Cancers, okay? Cancer is the water element. It has to do with the shell and also emotions and water and depth. So during this time, it is very important to make sure that you're balancing your emotions, you know, checking yourself, checking your emotions, checking your stability, your emotional stability, your mental stability, and make sure you are really into self-care. I know one of the things I introduced last time was soul care. It's so critical and so important. You know, it's time to tune out things that are emotionally draining, mentally and spiritually draining to you, to your family, to your thought form, to your patterns, and make sure that you are increasing the need and the space for your spiritual growth and watering yourself the way that you're supposed to water yourself, okay? So now I'm going to get into what messages are wanting to be given to us during this week, okay? So energy, spirit, universe, please provide us with some information that you would like to give to us as it pertains to this week. Whatever it is that you want us to focus on, give us the energy that you would like us to focus on during this week. All right, so that's three cards, so perfect, clear message. And let's look at the overall energy. I'm going to take a little sneak peek. Vulnerability. Vulnerability is the energy message, okay, overall message. So as I was saying, it's definitely the time and the energy, the space that's being introduced for us to be in tune with, return to our emotions, return to our spirituality, return to our growth, return to our space of love, of balance, of peace, and controlling that, all right? No longer allow energy, things outside of ourselves to control our sphere of control. All right, so let's regain the control. Let's understand what we water, what we plant, okay, and understand the soil, that which is us. You know, I've been coming across the analogy more of plants. A lot of us have been reconnecting with plants instead of being able to go outside. A lot of us have been gardening more, have been growing our own food. The energy is really demanding us to have that healing space for ourselves, to nurture, to learn how to tend to our own gardens and to nurture our grass instead of looking over at another person's grass, because instead of watering our own self and nurturing to our own soil, we don't want it to become stale, okay? We don't want it to become a place where it's barren, where it doesn't grow, where it doesn't create what we need, right? To eat, to sustain our life, or our independence, you know? So vulnerability, The next one, it says, listen, you guys, earth magic. Earth magic, okay? It's time for us to get control of ourselves, to gain control of ourselves. And anytime you're dealing with fairies, you're dealing with the fae, it's about tending to Mother Earth, tending to nature, making sure that we are not littering, making sure that we are cleaning up after ourselves. You know, fae people are really clean, neat, and also a bit tricky, you know, so just make sure that, you know, we are really just building a space that's sustainable, that's balanced, that doesn't allow trickery to come in. Okay, earth magic. Next is reflection. Reflection, winter solstice. When you think of winter solstice, when you think of reflection, you think of solitude. You think of the return. And again, Mercury retrograde is all about the reflection, returning. All right. The next is says eagle, which is communion. Communion is a form of communication. It's a part of being able to, again, connect with nature, connect with our intuition, our soul, and also just understanding that the vulnerability also isn't an external view, it's a totality, like it's the fullness. This communion and its vulnerability, we have to be real with the reality. We have to begin to reflect. We have to be able to be mindful of trickery, of earth magic, because earth magic also deals with mankind. It also deals with getting ahead of ourselves. You know, we have to return to our sustainability. You know, this Mercury in Cancer, retrograde in Cancer, is really just letting us pause, reflect, return, reconnect, regain our consciousness of our soul, regain our consciousness of our strengths, understand the vulnerability that has been played and toiled with, being able to not only look at with our emotions, but with the bird's eye view, with the eagle, okay? And just understand that this earth magic is something that can be like an illusion, delusional, because when you're dealing with the fae and the fairies, it could be, you know, like Alice in Wonderland. It could be, you know, not realistic. Okay, so you have to be mindful because there's many different type of fays and fairies. They're not always pretty, glamorous. You know, they're multi-dimensional, just like us, right? So yeah, that's the message I have for today. Definitely hope that this week you all are just returning to your space of healing, of space of truth, and regain control, you guys. I love you guys, so family, so friends. Till next time.